All right, we're rolling.
Yep,
Time to rock.
that's right, Brad.
Okay. A major theme in both selections is that it's worse to perpetuate injustice than to suffer it. Thinking through both texts, why should we think that?
I put doing wrong is bad for one's spiritual well-being. His view, Socrates' view, says that this is the most important, which is to defend it from harm, but he also emphasizes even though the body may be harmed, it won't hurt the spirit. So you must sacrifice a portion of your well-being in order to do what's right. For example, Crito says that Socrates should escape and live in exile. However, he refuses Crito's suggestion because he says that committing injustice is worse than suffering the injustice that he's experiencing. And if he were to escape, he would be engaging in injustice by rejecting the state's laws and covenants that a citizen is required to follow. And if he were to break the bonds that he has adhered to for 70 years, it would cause others to do the same. As a result, he accepts his fate instead of perpetuating injustice by escaping despite being a victim of injustice.
I mean, I think Brad pretty much covered it. I mean, really, he said a lot more than I did, but I focused a lot on the point about it being possible to suffer an injustice and still maintain like a happy and virtuous life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I said something like similar to what you guys were saying when I read everybody's answers. But so the main reason I said that it was better, that he said that it was better for people to perpetuate injustice than to suffer it, was just because like when you suffer it, it doesn't make you can still be a just person and go through injustice, but like and that doesn't make you unjust, or it doesn't change your character or anything like that. But when you perpetuate injustice, you're putting you're making yourself unjust, and then you're putting out an unjust situation. So that's what I said basically.
Yeah, because I mean, just like basically, like at the end of the day, like what determines that, like if you're just or not, is the actions you choose. Like no matter what happens to you, like it's still based on what you do. So
Right.
basically, it's just like he's arguing that by choosing to just suffer the injustice that you have, like that'll make you more just.
Yeah, like even like outside of the context of this piece, like I feel like we all have the notion that like it would be better not to cause injustice on other people. That's just not morally a correct thing to do. So it would be more morally correct for you to suffer it and still have your own moral standing than to like cause other people harm.
Yep.
What do the laws of Athens say to Socrates in the Crito, and what is the argument against civil disobedience?
I can go ahead and start. I said that the laws, basically they asked him a bunch of different questions like to frame their argument that was like, look at all the ways that the laws have benefited you and the ways that you've used the laws before, and like we helped you then and now you're trying to like turn on us or whatever. And then the argument against civil disobedience was about basically the social contract that people sign, or Athenians signed by like, and Socrates himself signed by choosing to live there his whole life instead of like moving. He decided to, you have to follow the laws now since you're going to be here.
Yeah, I'm gonna somewhat say what you said. I said it says that Athens' government dictates what is just, despite the fact they might make errors in the interpreting and administration of justice. Furthermore, Socrates emphasizes against breaking any law which he says is unjust. He provides two big arguments for adhering to the law. One, dialogue in the Credo emphasizes that a citizen should be grateful for the laws, and two, agree to the social contract that you should, as a citizen, obey the established laws. Regarding the argument against civil disobedience, he declares that disobeying or breaking a law would result in committing an injustice, which is worse than suffering one. And engaging in civil disobedience is morally reprehensible because, as a citizen, one agrees to the laws and the contracts that you must obey regardless of any conditions, even in Socrates' case, who was imprisoned and sentenced to death.
I don't have much to add to that one.
I think that one's pretty.
Yeah.
All right. So, in Gorgias, there's a distinction between laws of nature and of convention. What's the distinction? How do conceptions of justice differ on each? I said that the laws of convention were basically just like certain things that are true because they're based on convention, or just laws of agreement that a society develops over time. Like they just accept that to be the law, versus like laws of nature is laws that cannot be changed, and these are just like universally accepted as wrong. There's really no like wiggle room with that. And then basically like I said that laws of nature allow for justice to be just applied more equally to everyone. Like it's just more just for everyone since they can't be changed, while laws of convention tend to benefit the stronger people because they're kind of like the ones creating those norms, and those just are based off like their self-interest most of the time.
I focus, like I obviously answered the question, but the laws of nature kind of reminded me of the unwritten rules of baseball, just in like the idea that they're not exactly anything that anybody has ever formalized, but that like those are the rules that are followed and enforced by everyone, not just those in power. And so instead of having any like formal punishment, the players in this case take care of it, just like the people would, the laws of nature.
Yeah, you guys, I agree with everything you guys said. I feel like if I answered this, I would just be repeating.
That's how some of these questions really feel sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then last one. Why isn't justice determined by the interests of the strong per Socrates?
He compares the strong by using the leaky jar metaphor. Socrates says that a person with insatiable desires will require more but will never be full and content. The strong is the few, the weak is many, the majority and the weak are the ones that created laws and conventions. They intimidate the strong few, and if justice were to be dictated by the strong, the many would be forced to live under and obey the few, who would take over and dominate the many through force, subversion, and would have nothing, since the desires of the strong would require anything and everything to be content, which is why the many form their laws of convention.
Yeah, Brad. I said what you said, but just in much simpler terms. I just said like basically that the okay, I'm sorry. The weak, like it's easy for the weak to eventually become the strong. You know what I mean? Like you said, because they'll get together. They could, since they're majority, they could easily become the strong. So that's why I said that. The strong doesn't or influence justice only.
And I completely agree.
Me too. I don't know if this is kind of like along the right lines, but I also was like thinking, I was like, because basically we were all kind of saying like, yeah, like the strong group is just like constantly changing, but like also on top of that, like goes back to the point we had earlier that like basically the unjust can't make just people unjust. Like at the end of the day, like it's based on what your actions are. So even if justice was like tailored like to benefit the strong based on like norms they create and stuff like that, like at the end of the day, the true justice is going to go to like the people who are actively choosing to be just, if that makes sense.
All right.
Okay.